Hello and welcome to the Modern Horror Stories podcast with Dave, Jamie and Alex. And today we're going to be talking about the 2011 movie, You're Next. And as a synopsis of this film, it's about a family reunion at a holiday home. The family don't particularly get on too well, but that turned out to be the least of their worries when they find themselves under attack from intruders. So essentially, this is a home invasion movie. Let's start by revealing our scores for this film. So I think as I'm the outlier in this round of scores, I'm going to tell you why you're both wrong. Why I rated this movie so high is because when I think about what is required from a good home invasion movie, it's two things, and that is characters that you're rooting for and a credible threat. They're the two baseline things that we require. And I think those are both two ticks from my point of view. Going beyond that, I think the characters are done really well. Personally, I was really invested in these characters. And, it's a horror movie, so you're only going to have 10 minutes of character development before they start getting killed. But in that 10 minutes, I learned a lot about this family. I enjoyed what I found out, their little secrets, their little dynamics. There was one particularly horrible character who reminded me of someone I knew, so I immediately engaged with him as a realistic character. Also, the threat is good. I like the threat. They have a distinct look, which you'll know if you've seen the poster. The level of destruction and carnage is, I think, pretty close to what I want from this kind of movie. Some home invasion movies almost tip into torture porn where they're torturing the victims. This doesn't do that, which I like. The script was great. It was clever. It was funny. And also the characters who survived to the end, one in particular, I thought was a superb actress. I really believed in her. She's a really strong, powerful female character. And these days, if you look at the Star Wars franchise, a strong female character just means a perfect woman, an unbelievable character. But this was a strong character done well. I enjoyed this movie. 8 out of 10.
I think that's fair enough. I can understand the perspective, and now I'm going to disagree with it. I think I'm going to start with my criticism that's sort of a response of what you thought was so good, Dave, was that I didn't feel that in that first 10 minutes I knew these characters particularly well. So by the time that they were all being killed off, I didn't really care that much. We've got this main couple. I wanted that relationship to be built up so that we had the strength of this relationship, and then the events of the film can have their effect on that relationship. So, yes, I wanted to be rooting for this couple a little more than I was. I didn't really know much about their relationship except what other people said about it. You have sort of siblings kind of snidely making remarks about it. So I think I wanted more of a reason than these two people being the main characters in order for me to get on their side. I felt I needed a bit more effort put into that. But I think a lot of the reason, and sorry, I ought to say, this was a really ably, competently made film. I thought it was well made. I don't want to slag it off too much. Having said that, I did find it just a little generic sometimes. It could have pushed the boat out a bit more. I think, if anything, what epitomizes that is the title, You're Next. I think it didn't quite work for the film. There was no sense of them sort of going after them in order one by one in the way that You're Next implies. And sort of talking about genericism, I suppose that title, You're Next, it is such a sort of horror staple. The idea that you might have something written on the, You're Next written on the wall or something like that. Whereas if you look at I Know What You Did Last Summer, incredibly specific title. You've come up with something that, somebody knows exactly what you've done and when you did it. And there's something absolutely terrifying about that. Whereas, for whatever reason, You're Next doesn't inspire that fear in me. And I felt that sort of set the tone for the whole film. I did worry that quite a lot of the film just ends up leaning into genericisms. That's a word. But I'm curious to hear, because Jamie, you had a very similar score to me. So I want to know
an even
Yeah,
worse
that's it.
score than you, an even
Yeah.
worse score. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Well, I agree with so much of what you said, and to echo what you said about it's a really well-made film. I think even if it wasn't a well-made film, it's something we've said in previous episodes, is that to put an idea from your head onto the screen and then to get that in front of an audience, it's an incredible feat. So well done to the people who've done this. And I agree, the filmmaking itself is brilliant. The lighting inside the house was flawless. The Foley, if they used Foley, I'm not sure if they used Foley or if they managed to record the live sounds of things breaking and smashing. But either way, it was perfect. It was so, everything felt so real. And the stage combat was brilliant. The props used and the weapons used, they were great weapons and they were used so well. And everything felt incredibly real.
That's almost like an 8 out of 10 score, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah,
But there was an except. I'm sure I heard Jamie about say the word except.
Yeah. The characters didn't feel real. So that lost a big part of the heart of the film. And I agree with you, Alex. I didn't get anything from the setup. I think I checked the time when the setup finished. I think it was 30 minutes into the film. I might need to double check that. So it was like 30 minutes of, I mean, there's an establishing scene with characters we never see again. But then when we're dealing with the family, it's just them arriving at the house and talking to each other. And like Alex said, like, you're not really getting anything from that. And then suddenly we're at 110% full throttle carnage. And the full throttle carnage was great, but I felt zero investment in these people and who they were. And there was a line which isn't supposed to be funny, but I found hilarious because one of the characters says to somebody else, "I've never seen you behave this way before." And they're literally just going around and saying, "We should lock the doors and windows," which I think like 80% of people would do in a situation like this. And also there was no establishment of how she normally behaves. Like if she was normally incredibly meek and mild and couldn't face the social situation of being with a family, and then suddenly turns into this leader and this confident person and taking charge of a situation, then that would be something. But she didn't seem to have any transformation. And they kept trying to build up this sort of secret backstory, like as if she had some incredible backstory to her. It didn't feel like there was a great secret there, but they built up right towards the end of the movie to reveal this big secret. And then there was just this weird exposition scene, and the character that was listening to this exposition scene reacted exactly as I was reacting. They went, "Wow, that's crazy." Like they couldn't be less interested. And I totally agree with Alex about the You're Next. I'm thinking of films like It Follows or even Ring, which we reviewed, and Final Destination, where you have this sort of this looming threat and you know who is next. And it's not just random chaos and carnage. Like if somebody opened their wallet, and it would fit with the plot of the film, but if somebody opened their wallet and found a note saying "You're next," and then they were next, then that would have been brilliant. But again,
wow. It feels like you guys have watched a different movie to me. I got loads from these characters. Was it 30 minutes? Actually, I mean, it felt like I got a lot from these characters. Maybe it was all in I think it was in the subtext, guys. I think it was the way people opened doors and looked at each other. Yeah, things. In terms of the You're Next, without giving too much away, I think that was for me that was a plot device based on absolutely.
I didn't get that.
Okay, yeah, for me it was, because some home invasion movies have intruders who are there for a reason, and then others, sometimes they just have people who are just randomly decided to attack for no apparent reason, like in Assault in Precinct 13. You never really know the reason why all this crowd are attacking the police station. And so I don't want to give away the reason of which side it is in this movie, but for me, the You're Next is part of that.
Yeah, no, I could see it could be there as a red herring. It is.
Yes, absolutely. That's how I interpreted it. thought the lead actress was superb, and her backstory worked perfectly for me. Yeah.
Alex, how did you feel about the backstory?
I mean, I thought, because it is one line, the backstory, which
What a line.
it's yes, yeah, is that, and no, I mean, it is a funny line. It's just by the second half, things sort of start not fitting together so much. But anyway, carry on.
I do agree that tonally I've seen this film a couple of times.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it more each time I saw. A bit, very much like Citizen Kane. I started to see extra things. But
You're next, the Citizen Kane of horror films.
but I do agree that tonally it's strange. And the first time I watched it, I found that a little disconcerting. The second time, given that, you know, if there are secrets to be revealed, the second time you know them, and everything seems a bit more, makes more sense the second time. The major issue I had with the film was just I weren't quite sure of the level of violence. If you think of it, if you get into a car and you know that car can only go at 60 miles an hour, that's what you expect. If you get into a car and it can go 100 miles an hour, then that's what you're going to expect. I never quite knew what speed this car was going to go at. At one stage, the brutality really ramped up to where I didn't expect it to go, which was fine if the whole movie was like that. But that kind of inconsistency bothered me a tiny bit. But yeah, it still works perfectly for me.
Perhaps I might like it more on a second viewing, like now that I know what to expect, because there was some moments that I really loved. Like one of my favorite moments of the whole film is the very last moment, and I loved that. I loved the ending. I really loved the ending. Like the last couple minute or so, I loved that.
And I ask, if you took away the last minute, would you drop down to a 4.5?
4.9. Because there was still, even before that, there were still lots of moments that I really loved.
So I've got to say, with that last moment, that see, I liked it, but at the same time, that I think was the key moment that I thought tonally didn't work with the rest of the film. It's tonally quite consistent for the first half, and then the second half, and I far preferred the second half, but the second half is tonally all over the place. I think if the film had managed to keep up more of a comic tone throughout, even if it was just a satirical tone, I think I would have been a lot keener on this. So I think there are a lot of parts of this film I would happily give 8, 9. It's just overall, as the whole piece, as a full hour and a half, I think 6 is about fair.
Just in defense of the tonal shifts, I kind of agree with them. I feel that they had to have those tonal shifts to hide some of the plot. I feel if it had all been very comic, some of the things would have been more obvious if they were coming. That's my feeling. Anyway, that's what we thought about the movie You're Next. If you agree with us, put your comments below. If you didn't agree with us, maybe join us tomorrow, because we're going to be talking about 3 things that we think would improve this movie. So come and join us then.